Today I'm with Tyler Redmond. We're going to be reacting to Armie Hammer on Piers Morgan, discussing why he cheated on his wife, why they got divorced, are his reasons valid, are his reasons good, why are so many people getting divorced today, what can we do about this, is there anything we can do about it? Again, Tyler is one of the best people I could ever talk to about this, so let's talk about it. This is Armie Hammer, fell from Hollywood's graces after cheating on his wife in dramatic fashion.
I don't think it can get much worse than the way he did it.
Yeah, if you're under 18 watching this, please don't go and investigate what he did. Please don't do that. Just know that, again, crazy stuff, cheated on his wife. And he's going to explain why. And Tyler and I are going to comment on that.
First 7 years of my marriage, which, included, a year of engagement and all that stuff, I was monogamous. I was faithful. I didn't cheat on my wife.
What made you finally cheat?
So he made it how many years, by the way?
7 plus 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Good start.
I think that I got to a point where I want to answer this really carefully.
Let me know when you want to pause it, by the way.
I think what happens in long-term relationships are the two people will grow constantly. And if the people start to grow apart, at first it's minuscule, it's unrecognizable, and it's like a tanker ship going on the open sea. If they're off by 1 degree for the first mile, you probably don't notice. 5 miles, you're a little bit offshore. But you go 500 miles or 1,000 miles, you lose sight of each other, and you're in a fog bank. And all of a sudden, when you're lost and you've lost your partner because you're not checking in with each other, which is a two-way street, you can't find that person again. And I think that's what finally happened in my marriage. I think you have two people who grow, which everyone will do, but they weren't growing necessarily together.
And from that,
Let me stop it there. Do you have thoughts on this?
Sounds like he's blaming him and his wife on this situation.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, do you at least accept his premise that in marriage you both grow throughout the entire process and you become different as individuals?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You've got to accept that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everybody's going to grow. With the passing of time, whether you're an individual or you're a couple, you're going to grow. He's just saying our growth is the reason that I cheated.
Yeah, because the growth it's going to happen. And I would say it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because my wife got married to me when I was 19. But I would say this. My wife at her age now, she wouldn't still want to be married to 19-year-old Marco. She wants to be married to me at my age.
You're right. Yeah.
If my brain was still the 19-year-old brain exactly, that would not be a good thing.
No.
So the change is a good thing. People changing should not be It's so weird. Don't you hear that all the time? We grew apart. We grew apart. We grew apart.
Excuse.
Yeah.
Because marriage takes work.
Yeah.
In other words, I didn't want to work at it anymore.
Well, that's the thing. He said when you stop checking in with each other, then you grow too far apart and it's not salvageable. What do you think about that?
I mean,
I agree with the checking in part. You got to check in with each other, right?
Yeah. No, communication is super key in any relationship, but especially a marriage. Because if you two aren't communicating about your feelings, about what you're doing, about what you're thinking, then you leave each other in the dark. And what he describes can very easily happen over the passing of time without communication. So I think he's accurate in his assessment of relationships in general. This has nothing to do with the fact that he cheated on his wife.
Yeah.
how many women were there from that point?
Probably more than the average person would be exposed to.
Give me a ballpark.
I would say, I haven't done the math. But
50, 100, 200, 500?
sure. Maybe not 500. That's
500 is where he draws the line.
I was
He's
thinking like 5.
I know 500 is not where he's like, okay, this is getting. Let's not be silly now.
That's getting a little ridiculous.
500 is where he goes, hey, this is a serious interview. Not at 50. Not at 50.
Well, and if you're shocked by that comment, wait till we get into the rest of it.
Dude.
it's quite a bit. But
Many hundreds.
I wouldn't say many hundreds. No.
Not many hundreds. Dude, that is so crazy. That's where he's like, don't say many hundreds. It's just a couple.
If you hit double digits,
Dude.
you have a problem.
Yeah, single digits is crazy. Double digits.
I would say enough. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
One's enough.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that now? Just on that point, never mind the allegations, which we'll come to. But what do you feel about
If I look at
how you were behaving?
Sure. If I look at it as it pertains to me, I look at a guy who was really hurting and needed something and didn't have it within himself to give himself what he needed. So he was
Pause.
Selfish, 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 selfish.
Yeah.
I mean, if you break it down, that's what most sin stems from is selfishness. I want this that I do not have, and so therefore I'm going to get it because I think I should have it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like rationalizing. Again, it is true. Like, it is true that a guy who is like hurting or whatever can get to a point where that stuff becomes a temptation. Sure. And he's in a bad headspace and he starts to have these dumb ideas that, like, maybe the waitress, maybe I'm in love with her or something like that, right? That stuff happens to people. But to go beyond that and to get all the way to the point where you're having a 10-month-long affair, now we've gone way past you were just hurting.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, that's where I'm totally with you that we're in selfishness territory 100%.
Dude, he would make a really good politician.
Yeah, he talks like a politician. Well, like, I think that, like, this guy, they've got like the same people the politicians have, like these publicists that are like, you've got to go on the circuit, because he's been on a lot of podcasts around like a month ago. You got to go on the circuit, and here's your talking points. Here's what you got to keep the conversation coming back to. For sure, that's a lot of what's happening.
looking for that love or acceptance from other people. And that's one way to look at it. If I look at it in relation to the other people, I look at a bunch of people who were used like a drug to make someone feel better. It wasn't even about those other people.
That's better. That's a better answer. He's at least being honest, saying like, I was using these people to make me feel better. That's the selfishness.
Yeah.
Were you very arrogant at the time, would you say?
No, I don't think I ever was arrogant, because I think I lacked the sort of overinflated sense of ego or self-confidence. I think there was a bit of an imposter syndrome at play as well, so it precluded me from ever being like, I'm the greatest and you're lucky to be with me. I don't think that was a part of it.
Did it bring you any validation? Did it bring you any of the love that you were craving?
In the short term, it felt like it did, but it wasn't real, any more so than eating candy that's really bad for you makes you feel full, but then later makes you feel sick and you have cavities and you have to fix that.
I mean, it was a good year before the allegations first emerged that you and your wife announced you were going to get divorced. Did she know about this? Were you honest at that time about any of the infidelity, or were there other reasons at the time that were the cause of the breakup?
I mean, infidelity was a key factor in our...
So she knew you'd been unfaithful?
Yes, I told her that I was unfaithful.
What made you be honest in the end?
Infidelity was a key factor.
Well, don't forget they grew apart.
I was going to say, yeah. It seems like he's got the order wrong. That, like, why did you cheat? Well, because we grew apart. When, like you said, the grew apart usually is like the reason for the divorce, not for the cheating.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it might be, again, it can explain the temptation to want to cheat.
Yeah.
Like, my wife and I don't understand each other anymore. Now I'm tempted and thinking to myself these ridiculous thoughts that, again, the waitress is in love with me or something like that, or I'm in love with the waitress because she remembers my order or something like that.
Yeah.
But it seems like he's got the order he's got the idea, the process way off in his head.
Yeah, and I think a better answer to why did you cheat is, or why did we get divorced, is because I grew indifferent about my wife's feelings, about my family, about whether or not we were going to stay together, and I just wanted what I wanted, and
wasn't willing to fight, to communicate, to fight back for that relationship.
Yeah.
He was, again, having these feelings where he wanted to use people. Like it's so much more than just like, well, key part of that was the 10-month long infidelity I had.
That'll usually do it.
That we grew apart. Like I don't know. Maybe this is just part of the publicist side of it, but like the idea that he's just like, it's like equal parties, 50-50 is the reason why. It's like she didn't communicate, I didn't communicate, therefore I cheated, therefore we divorced, and therefore I used people and all that. Like, again.
Maybe the better question is, why did you grow apart?
Yeah.
If you're able to delve into that a little bit, maybe then you can see what leads to some of the other things that he falls prey into.
Well, see, a lot of the time, why people grow apart because of that desire to use in the first place. Like that feeds into his lack of desire to want to communicate to his wife. Like I see this stuff when I talk to married couples a lot of the time, where there's like a root cause that is the reason why they're not communicating. Like he just acted like, man, we messed up. We forgot to check up with each other.
Yeah.
But it's like, no. It's not like you guys forgot, like you forgot to take out the trash.
Yeah.
There's like an intentionality that was happening over a course of time. and you replaced the desire to communicate with the desire for something that's bad.
Yeah.
And then I came clean to my wife at the time and told her what was going on. And
Did you tell her the scale of it?
at this point, it had only been one person.
Right.
And it was the person who then ended up accusing me of rape.
Pause.
So his wife knew at person number 1, and then there was 199 more.
Yes, after he tells his wife, he goes on a
Goodness.
spree.
Dude.
Rape. That is the person who I had the first and only affair at that time on my wife.
This is Effie Angelova.
First.
Yeah. So she was the first person who I stepped outside of my marriage for.
And how did your wife react when you told her?
Appropriately. Yeah. A lot of anger, a lot of betrayal, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, which I caused. You know, I mean, that's on me.
And was that the catalyst for actually breaking up?
Yeah. Yeah. And we tried working on our marriage for a while. After that, we spent a considerable amount of time in couples therapy and trying to work through our issues. And, you know, as we continued to try to work through them, it just became clear that the damage had been done. I had done the damage.
Even as you're telling me this, it looks to me like you're feeling quite emotional about that moment.
It was a dark time. It was a dark, painful time. Yeah, it was. And it's also something that I have to accept is on me. Like I had an affair on my wife. Obviously, I'm not the first person in the history of Hollywood to do that, but I did it. And it's less than becoming behavior that I have to own and take accountability for.
Okay. I want to be kind, but like, I don't see the emotion that Piers Morgan is seeing.
Looks pretty straight-faced.
I don't know. It just when he gets off, I feel like when he gets off script and he starts to just talk, stream of consciousness, he sounds selfish. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's like, oh, back on track. And then he sounds right again. It's on me. I take the responsibility. Is that what you're saying too, a little bit?
Yeah, no, I'm seeing the exact same thing. He clearly has some scripted answers, but occasionally will veer off, and you see a little bit of the narcissism. And,
Yeah. He was prepared for the first question, why did you cheat on your wife?
Yeah.
We grew apart, that the ships example and stuff. And then Piers Morgan's asking him these like secondary, tertiary questions, and he's not ready for that, so he sounds selfish again, and then he gets back on track.
And I have to also own the pain that I caused.
How do you get on with your wife then?
I would say we're very good co-parents. We've worked through a lot of stuff together. You know, we
Hundreds
are
of
able
things.
to put our children first.
Dude, I was going to say, shout out to her. The fact that she was even trying to fix it up is crazy. I crazy in a good way. Like the amount of courage and stuff to try to do that is incredible. You know, we covered last time the Carl Lentz thing with his wife, and they actually did salvage the situation.
Because he stopped doing what he was doing, probably.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. And it makes you wonder too, like what the religious element, how much that does for a marriage.
It's true.
That like this is just a Hollywood marriage, and so they go, no, I don't feel like it. But then there's like the Carl Lentz situation where they have this religiously based marriage where they really care about preserving the union. I really like. Did we talk about this? That like, you know, they say people in the world a lot of the time they dunk on us Christians. They go, well, the divorce rate is just as high in the church, like 50%, as it is in the world. So what's religion really doing for you? And I think that like I think we talked about how like not only is that statistic very contested, but I don't understand why people think that's such a dunk on Christians. Like just because people in the church, many of them just go, my wife and I grew apart. I felt like cheating, so I cheated. Or like my wife and I grew apart and we just decided to divorce anyway.
Yeah.
Like nothing really happened. We just grew apart. I don't think that they're acting out on Christianity in that kind of a situation.
Yeah. Like they're making the wrong decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they wear the name and stuff, but that doesn't mean everything they do is a good representation of Christianity. Just like not everything I do is a good representation of Christianity.
Right. And you got to think about some of those studies, right? They're talking about the Americanized version of the term Christianity, right? I mean, the numbers are like 70% of Americans say that they're a Christian, right? But what is the number actually? So if we took the number of actual Christians and looked at the divorce rate there, it's probably going to be significantly lower than the broad Christianity in general.
100%.
I remember when we were having our affair back in, I want to say 2017 or whenever it was, there was a time where she threatened to tell my wife. And she said, you know, I just can't live with the guilt of this anymore. You know, this is so terrible what we're doing, even though she knew I was married when she reached out to me first. We had talked about my wife. You know, we had talked about the affair. But there was a time where she said, I'm just going to have to tell your wife what we're doing. And that was also one of the big motivators for me coming clean in this situation, because it just caused such an intense anxiety for me.
So you get to this day,
Yeah.
January the 12th.
Me.
Yeah.
It made my life hard.
You notice that? Yeah. I came clean. Why? Because I was so anxious about getting caught. I was so worried about this that I was scared. Not like I was guilty. Like she's saying, I feel so guilty about this, whatever. He didn't feel guilty.
Yeah. He didn't want to get in trouble.
He felt nervous.
Which doesn't make any sense, because if you don't want to get in trouble, you're not going to be the one to tell your wife about it.
Yeah. I mean, you try to use Hollywood money to cover it. Maybe he did, like try to pay her off or something. But yeah, that is so true. He wasn't expecting that question. Long period of silence before he answers. And how does he answer? Kind of off script a little bit, going like, I confessed because I was nervous. I was scared of getting caught. And in Hollywood publicist fashion, get out ahead of it, right? Get out ahead of it before it gets real bad, and maybe you can kind of control how everything plays out at the end. Man, it's crazy. What a, not just like a cautionary tale as much as like, it's so mind-blowing. It's so mind-blowing to see how when you value how you feel, when you value what you want over what is right, disastrous consequences for your life and for your marriage.
100%. In every category of your life, not just marriage, but if that is what you place at the top priority in your life, things are going to come crashing down for you at some point.
It's what I hate so much about the world today, the culture of the world today is if you feel like this is the right thing to do it.
Yeah.
If this is if that's what you want, then go out and get it. That is so horrible, man. It destroys families. Probably traumatized his kids and stuff. All because of what? Because you just followed what you wanted instead of what was right.
Think about what this culture, what society in America would look like if everybody did exactly what they wanted all the time.
So where I say you value more what you wanted over what was right, and therefore you destroyed your family. They would say though, would you want him to stay in this unhappy marriage?
Well, there's 100% chance that it was not an unhappy marriage just because of his wife, right? So if he worked on his half of the unhappiness in their marriage would be 10 times better than what it is.
Didn't sound like he was 5-star husband and she was just the worst.
Do what you're supposed to do in your situation, in your relationship, in your marriage, and things will at least get better.
Yeah.
Right? We don't all do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's
all
the thing.
time.
I'm not telling him to stay in an unhappy marriage. I'm telling him to make his marriage happy again. People act like you have one of two options. Your marriage goes south, then just go find another one. No. Your marriage goes south, do the right thing and fix that marriage.
Yeah.
You made a commitment to a person.
Yep.
And we this world today, we just don't care about commitment or value it as much. Craziness. But yeah, when he's off script, a lot of selfishness, a lot of me, I was scared of getting caught. And I worry that he's doing damage control to try to get back in the limelight again. Eventually, this will all be kind of forgiven, and he'll be back in it if he's not already in it already.
Well, he cares enough about commitment when it comes to movie contracts, but he doesn't care about it when it comes to marital contracts.
Yeah, I know. Man, think about that. Crazy. But yeah, no, the idea that we can't work on our marriages and both keep them strong or salvage them when things go bad and we go through real rough patches is so crazy, man. And again, that's got to be one of the biggest contributors to how high the divorce rate is today in people, that we just don't have this idea in our minds that we can salvage our marriages when things go bad.
Yeah, and that's why it's important as a married couple to be super diligent about these things and be able to notice them and to kind of snuff them out right at the very beginning. Because if you let them drag on and you don't address them, then it can turn into something like this very easily.
Yeah, that can be any marriage. That can be any marriage if you become selfish, if you become lazy, if you're uncaring, if you're not trying to make sure, like he said, one thing he said that was right, we're not checking up on each other and stuff like that, making sure everything is okay. It can go bad real fast, real fast. Well, you're the man, dude.
Tell me something I don't know.
Perfect husbands right here. You and me.
Please don't go talk to Megan.
All right. Let's get out of here. See you later. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Consider supporting on Patreon.
Yeah, what he said.
Tagline. Good tagline. Talk to you later. Goodbye.